Imagine standing on the shore of ancient Greece, hearing the roar of thunder and the crash of waves. To the people of that world, these sounds were not just weather or chants, they were the voices of the gods. Zeus hurled lightning in anger, Poseidon struck the sea in fury, and the threads of human fate were woven by the mysterious hands of the gods. But then something revolutionary occurred. Some began to wonder, what if these forces were not the moods of gods but the natural order of the world? What if the universe could be explained, not by myth but by reason? This bold shift from myth to reason marks the true dawn of philosophy, the birth of rational thought that continues to shape our world today. For millennia, human beings turned to myth to make sense of life and death, nature, and morality. Myths were not just entertaining stories, they were the foundation of meaning. In Mesopotamia, the Enuma Elish told how the god Marduk battled the primordial sea monster Tiamat, forming heaven and earth from her body. In Greece, Hesiod's Theogony traced the genealogy of the gods, explaining how chaos gave birth to order. These myths answered the big questions. Why do storms rage? Why does the sun rise? Why do people suffer or prosper? To ancient minds, the answers were clear, because the gods willed it so. But myths had limits. They explained the world through personalities, gods who argued, fought, and punished. Natural events were the result of divine moods rather than natural laws. By the 7th and 6th centuries BCE, however, something changed. The rise of the Greek city-states, places like Athens, Corinth, and especially Miletus meant more trade, more travel, and more exchange of ideas. Sailors brought knowledge from Egypt, Babylon, and beyond. As cultures mixed, so did questions. Could there be a deeper universal explanation for the world? Could nature explain itself? The city of Miletus on the Ionian coast of present-day Turkey became the cradle of this new way of thinking. It was wealthy, cosmopolitan, and curious. Here, thinkers began to ask questions no myth could fully answer. The first of these pioneers was Thales of Miletus, circa 624 to 546 BCE. He is often called the first philosopher. Thales asked, "What is the fundamental substance of the world?" His answer was bold: water. Everything, he taught, comes from water and returns to it. To us, this may sound simple, but his reasoning was profound. For the first time, someone had looked past the gods and suggested a single natural principle behind everything. His student, Anaximander, went even further. He rejected the idea of a physical element and proposed instead the apeiron, the boundless or infinite. This was not something you could touch or see. It was an abstract principle, limitless and eternal, from which all things emerge and to which they return. Then came Anaximenes, who proposed air as the primary substance. He argued that air, by thinning or thickening, becomes fire, water, earth, and everything else. In a way, he was trying to show how one simple element could transform into the diversity of the natural world. These early thinkers, known as the pre-Socratics, were not always right, but their importance lies not in their answers, but in their method. They looked for explanations in nature itself, not in divine stories. This was the first spark of rational philosophy. This intellectual revolution is often described as the movement from mythos to logos. Mythos, myth, relied on stories, tradition, and the will of the gods. It preserved cultural values, but it did not ask for proof. Logos, a Greek word meaning word, reason, or principle, was something different. It suggested that the world had an underlying order that could be discovered through observation, argument, and reasoning. This did not mean myths disappeared. People still worshiped the gods and told stories of Zeus and Hera, but alongside the myths grew a new way of thinking, one that dared to ask, what if the universe is governed not by divine whim, but by consistent principles? What if human reason can uncover those principles? This shift from mythos to logos was like learning a new language, the language of rational inquiry. It was not an abandonment of meaning, but an expansion of it. The dawn of philosophy did not stop at abstract speculation. It reshaped every area of Greek life. In astronomy, thinkers like Thales predicted eclipses, not as omens of divine anger, but as natural events with patterns. Imagine the awe of predicting the darkening of the sun through reason alone. In mathematics, Pythagoras and his followers believed that numbers and ratios revealed harmony in the cosmos. Music, geometry, and even the stars themselves followed mathematical order. In medicine, the Hippocratic school rejected curses and divine punishment as causes of disease. Instead, they studied the body, seeking natural explanations for illness and treatment. In politics and ethics, new questions arose. If the universe is governed by reason, should society also be guided by reason rather than tradition alone? These questions would eventually lead to the radical conversations of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. The dawn of philosophy was not a single moment, but a cultural awakening, a time when human beings dared to look beyond myth and to trust their minds to uncover truth. Thales gazing at water, Anaximander imagining the infinite, Anaximenes seeing air in all things. These may seem like humble beginnings, but they represent the courage to ask, what if the universe makes sense? Philosophy began not with final answers, but with daring questions. And those questions opened the path to everything from science to ethics, from logic to democracy. This was humanity's first great step from mythos to logos, the birth of philosophy. Thank you for joining this episode of Daakye Institute. In our next lecture, we'll meet the sophists and Socrates who transformed philosophy from questions of nature to questions of ethics, society, and the good life. Subscribe, share, and continue the journey with us because the pursuit of wisdom has only just begun.